Welcome back from spring break, fifth graders. This week we will be reading a text from our journeys titled, "Why Can't You Make Them Behave, King George?" and learning more about some of the events that led up to the American Revolution. We will also watch part of this virtual field trip through the Museum of the American Revolution, which will also help guide us through that time period. After you watch the video, you will be answering some questions. You can find those questions in Google Classroom for the J. Crew and Super Trooper teams, or Canvas for the Supernova team. This video is about 8 minutes long. You could watch it multiple times and stop it to record answers if you'd like. Listen carefully and watch to learn more about the events that led up to the American Revolution.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren Tarshis, the author of the I Survived series. My books are about history, thrilling and important events that have shaped our world. What I love most about writing the I Survived series is that I get to learn about completely fascinating topics. And when I'm researching an I Survived book, my goal isn't just to learn dates and facts. I'm always looking out for details that will bring history to life, to learn the stories of real people who've lived through history, stories that will teach and inspire me. And that's why I am so excited to be here with you today at this very special new place, the Museum of the American Revolution in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is one of the only museums in the country dedicated to the American Revolution and the War for Independence, to the story of how the United States was born. I became completely obsessed with this topic as I was writing my book, I Survived the American Revolution. And so being here at this new museum, meeting historians and seeing the dazzling exhibits, it's really like a dream come true. But now I'm even happier because you are all here with me, and there's someone you have to meet, Adrienne Whaley, who works here at the museum.
Hey, Lauren, welcome. And welcome to all of you. Our mission here at the museum is to bring the American Revolution to life for you. And not only the battles of the Revolutionary War, we want to help you understand all that led up to the war and how the ideas of the American Revolution are so important to us today.
And what are we doing right here? What is this?
Yes, we are standing on top of one of our exhibits. It's a replica of the kind of ship that would have been used in many revolutionary battles. And this is a great place to start because we're about to take everyone on a journey, aren't we?
That is right. We are going back more than 250 years to colonial days in the 1700s, to when America wasn't yet a country. These are the 13 American colonies, which were created by England beginning in the 1600s. Living in these colonies meant that you were a part of Great Britain, as England and its colonies would become known. Back then, America was controlled by Great Britain. Americans followed British laws, flew the British flag, and maybe even had a painting of the British king or queen in their house. Many kinds of people lived in America's 13 colonies. There were settlers, also known as colonists, who came from England and Germany and other European countries. There were African people who had been taken from their homes and forced to come to America to work as slaves. There were Native Americans from dozens of different tribes or nations. Some of these tribes had been in Eastern America for thousands of years. By the 1700s, America was growing and changing fast. By 1760, there were 1.6 million colonists living in America. For these people, white and free, America was a land of opportunity, one of the very best places in the world to live. But trouble was brewing. Americans had become frustrated and angry at Great Britain. They wanted more say over the laws and the future of their land. They were tired of being ruled by the British government and their king, George III. Anger grew and grew and grew, and finally, in 1775, this anger exploded into war. The first official battle in the Revolutionary War was in April of 1775, when fighting broke out between British soldiers and American fighters in the Massachusetts towns of Lexington and Concord. I learned so much about this time when I was writing my I Survived book about the American Revolution. The war was longer and bloodier than I realized. It dragged on for 8 long years. More than 50,000 soldiers lost their lives. There were hundreds and hundreds of battles all over the colonies. I'd heard of the most famous ones, like the battles of Bunker Hill and Saratoga and Yorktown, but I didn't know that the biggest battle of all was one that I had never heard of, the Battle of Brooklyn. That battle, which happened in 1776, was so interesting and important that I decided to make it the focus of my I Survived book about the American Revolution. In my research, I learned about some of the most famous people from that time in history, like George Washington, who led the first American Army, which back then was called the Continental Army, and Thomas Jefferson, who wrote the Declaration of Independence, and Alexander Hamilton, who was a trusted aide to General Washington throughout the war. But for me, the most exciting part of research is discovering ordinary people from history, people like you all out there, people like us.
Absolutely. And that's so at the heart of what our museum is about. Our exhibits are based on real people, including kids who were involved in all parts of the revolution.
I love that so many of your exhibits are focusing on young people.
And you're going to get to hear some of the stories about them today, because I've arranged for a really special experience, a behind-the-scenes tour of the museum.
Well, let's go. Most people don't get to come back to this part of the museum. This is where the experts at the museum do their work, where they study historical objects and documents like letters and books and maps, where they plan their exhibits. And with us here today is Matthew Skick, who works at the museum and has been completely obsessed with the revolution since he was a child.
That's right, Lauren. Ever since I could read, I've been reading books about George Washington and the American Revolution and always wanted to learn more. I had a dream of working in a museum someday, and here I am.
With us. So, is there a part of the revolution that in your mind is the most special, the most important?
I really think it's July of 1776, when the Continental Congress issued the Declaration of Independence. And many people read the words of the Declaration of Independence in newspapers.
And you're going to show us this right now.
Take a look at this. This is a July 6th, 1776 printing of the Pennsylvania Evening Post, printed here in Philadelphia, and it includes a full printing of the Declaration of
And
Independence.
that's so amazing because I keep imagining all over the colonies, people reading this document and becoming inspired and, sharing it with their children. So this is really how the idea began to spread. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, this is the birth of the United States of America. And the United States was founded upon an ideal of a government that was directed by the people, rather than a king or a queen, like England had.
And this is a totally new idea right at the time.
Right. No other country has this kind of government.
And this was an idea that people were really willing to fight for.
That's right. The American revolutionaries fought for the ideals of the Declaration of Independence and the 8-year Revolutionary War.
And you're going to tell us about a young soldier who fought in that, right?
Right. Okay. A soldier that I've been interested in quite a bit is a soldier named Joseph Plum Martin, and he was from Connecticut. He was 14 when the Revolutionary War began, and 15 when he actually joined the American Army, which became known as the Continental Army. And he served in a number of battles and served about 7 years throughout the war. The first battle, though, that he encountered was the Battle of Brooklyn, which took place in 1776.
That was the battle that I decided to focus on in my I Survived book about the Revolution, because it's a battle that happened right after the Declaration of Independence was issued, and it was the biggest battle of the entire war, and yet so few people had heard of it.
Right. Joseph Plum Martin was encouraged by some of his friends in Connecticut, and they became soldiers and marched down to New York City to try and defend it from the British. It was the largest battle of the Revolutionary War, but not much went right for the Americans.
Right. And that was only the first battle that Joseph fought in, right? He was a part of almost the entire Revolutionary War. Is that right?
That's right. He remembers...
That's all we're going to learn about today, boys and girls. Please go to either Google Classroom or Canvas to find the questions related to this video. And don't forget, you can watch the video as many times. You can stop the video in the parts where you need to answer the questions. Have fun. Do your best.